Welcome to the Wisdom of Women show. We are dedicated to amplifying the voice and wisdom of women in business. A new model of leadership is emerging, and we are here to amplify the voices of women leading the way. I am your host, Coco Salmon, five-time founder, impact investor, and creator of the Force for Good system. Thank you for joining us today as we illuminate the path to unlocking opportunities and prosperity for women-led enterprises by amplifying the voice and wisdom of women. Today, we have a future designing wealth warrior in our midst. Syama Bunten is a transformational wealth leader, angel investor, and community builder who is redefining how women step into financial power. As co-founder of the Wealth Catalyst Summit and Big Delta Capital, and host of the top 100 ranked Getting Rich Together podcast with over 1,000 five-star reviews, she creates spaces where women speak openly about money, build confidence, and access real deal flow. Drawing from her early career at globally renowned brands like Gucci, Barney's, Macy's, and her experience co-founding and exiting the award-winning company Rendell Co., Syama brings both corporate sophistication and entrepreneurial credibility. Her work blends education, storytelling, and peer connection to close the money confidence gap at the moment when women are poised to inherit over $30 trillion in wealth by 2030. She's catalyzing a movement of capital-aligned leadership, empowering women to build wealth, shape culture, and create the future they want to live. Welcome, Syama.
Coco, how fabulous. That's the best introduction I've ever had in my life. Thank you.
Oh, I'm just so happy to be with you. We have such a wonderful connection, you and I. So before we get all into it, and I forget to ask you, what is a book written by a woman that has significantly influenced your life?
During some major transitions and transformations, I have often leaned on Martha Beck's book, The Way of Integrity. I get chills just thinking about it. This idea of returning home to what feels true and right to yourself, the canceling of hustle culture, returning to what feels like right timing and right people and integrity. And I feel like that book was really transformative for me to realize that living in integrity for everyone looks really different. I got to unpack and explore what that looks like for me.
I love that. I have not read this book. And you are the second person on the show who has recommended it. So I think it's next on my list. I've got to gather that one up. I do love integrity and congruence. Congruence has been a big word for me. And I know from our, sitting next, so for our listeners, Syama and I have had these wonderful interactions, and we got to have dinner together about a month ago in beautiful San Diego at the Women's Venture Summit. We had this talk about integrity and waiting, right? And having those moments, not always just thinking with the head, but also listening to see what's really right and good for us. I know that's a big part of where you are today. Want to say
Yeah.
anything about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think in my lifetime, I've experienced what I call first wave entrepreneurship, which is like, let me go out there and build something based out of this like intellectual place and based on the ability that I can and I should, and this sort of pressure to prove, right? With second wave entrepreneurship, it's very much out of a larger calling and something far more deeply led on an interpersonal, purpose-driven path. And that, I think, is what's led to, well, ultimately, if I'm building and doing something through my own path of integrity, then that means there are no rule books. There are no ways that this should be done other than the path that is being revealed to me as I am experiencing this. And so it is, I think, following your own path or following your way of integrity can sometimes feel very unconventional. It can be terrifying. It doesn't come with a great MBA degree where you can say, I can do these 10 things. It's so much larger and calls you to rise up to something that is far beyond just managing $100 million P&L, right? Like this is beyond something that is just on QuickBooks. I think that there's something powerful about our connection and how you are also leading with this beautiful way of integrity. And that is one of the qualities that I so love and admire in you, Coco.
Thank you. That means the world to me. So I'd love to learn more about you and your journey. And so I'd love for you to tell us about 3 moments in your life, 3 moments that have shaped who you are. Could be a younger moment, it could be personal, things that have shaped who you are and who you've become. And so, just whatever is popping into your head right now, share about 3 important moments for you in your life.
Yeah, I'd say I started using this word called positive trauma to describe the first one. And it's because I think positive trauma is like this big thing happened to me and oh my God, and it changed my life. But it was a good thing, right? But it's still traumatic, right? Because it's still like a big thing that happened. So when I was 12 years old, I started writing letters to the White House. I was part of a very small junior preparatory school. So small, in fact, that there were 3 boys and 9 girls in my grade. So very small. And I started writing letters to the White House because I wanted our choir to sing there. And I did first by sharing with everyone that I was doing it. And then obviously getting the expected, why are you doing this? You're just a kid. Who cares? Stop doing this. Do something else. But I persisted for a whole year and started getting correspondence back from the White House. All of that culminated with a phone call from the social secretary to my house. That was like, oh my God, I can't believe this moment is happening. And then that later ended with me and 25 other humans, so 5 teachers and 20 students on an airplane going to sing at the White House. And what is really powerful about this experience for me wasn't necessarily the persistency and sort of the I'm going to do it despite everyone else. The big moment for me was when I was in the airplane and I was looking out the window and I had for the first time in my life tears of joy. And the tears of joy were because I realized in that moment, and I get goosebumps feeling it, but in that moment, I realized that I not only could impact my own life, but I had the ability to impact the 24 other people who were on this airplane. That was the big aha. I knew I could muscle my way to get things done, which is not a great thing to learn about yourself. But the big thing I realized was that I could create and do something powerful and uplift others with me.
That takes your breath away as a 12-year-old now, doesn't it?
Yeah. I mean,
Ah,
it's also like something you don't really, when you're doing things, you don't necessarily think about what you're doing.
yeah.
You're like, I'm just gonna do it and be compelled to do it.
I almost imagine you looking out the window of that airplane and a higher self, a guide whispering in your ear, giving you clarity about where you're headed and what your purpose is. What a neat experience.
Profoundly changed my perception of the planet,
Yeah.
changed my perception of what it means to be alive, what you can do as a person who has agency and who's alive. And it gave me a sense of fearlessness that, to be honest, is tough to parent, like,
Very,
I
very
mean, that's very tough to parent that, but it unleashed something in me that has only ever continued to grow and shape and change in so many beautiful ways.
wonderful. So that's your first moment. Tell us another moment.
Oh my gosh. This one's kind of crazy. It's really fun for me. I moved to New York and was finishing up college out there, and I was so stressed by getting a job. I got my first job and I was in the buying offices of Macy's, my first job out of university. What's so interesting is, and I always tell people, you never know who you're going to meet on the dance floor or who's going to change your life or who's going to introduce you to who. And I always tell young people today, like, go party and meet people because you never know. I got this great coveted job, one of a few people in this program. And I got an opportunity through someone I had met, not professionally, about getting a job. And she knew someone who was working at Barney's. And at the time, Barney's was very new in its e-commerce division. There weren't many people in there. I had this great opportunity. And this is back at the time, Coco, when you had to like convince Balenciaga and Prada to sell online. No one was touching it. But for me, the big moment was I got this job opportunity and I said yes to it. And I walked into the HR office and I said, "Hey, I know I've been here only a year, but I have this amazing opportunity to go work in the Barney's e-commerce division." And that HR manager said to me, "You don't know what you're doing. People would die to have this opportunity that you have here working for us. You're throwing away a potentially big career move, and you should stay here, and you'll never be able to work here again." And I looked at him and I said, "If you had this opportunity, you would take it too." And that was a big moment where this person's like 20 years older than me, and here I am
Yeah.
being
Actually, dude.
the same thing.
Well, that's chutzpah, right? And what I love about that is that you were clear. You had to have been so clear because you couldn't respond that way. I don't know how you get that clarity other than just trying it out. It's remarkable that you had that clarity as a young person and you just stood your ground and took this leap.
You know, the other thing, Coco, I'll say this ties back into some of my money story stuff. My mom is an immigrant and she's
Oh,
extremely risk averse. For her, you get one job, stick to it for 35 years and retire. For her to see her young college graduate jumping from one opportunity to another, I called her and I said, "Hey, I got this great opportunity. I got a job at Barney's." First of all, she had no idea what Barney's is. Like, it didn't even matter to her. But she said, "Are you sure you want to give up your job security?
uh,
You know, are you sure?" And so it was a really powerful moment to be like, "Yes, I am sure within myself." She was just as doubtful as my HR
uh,
person. In the face of that, I had to really double down on my own conviction.
we'll come back to this point because I know that we've talked about this, that the people that will understand your visions and dreams and support your path may not be your closest loved ones. So you have to go out into the world and find a community that will, the people that are just hanging out in your life, at least when you're young and finding your way before you get intentional about who you spend time with. They don't mean to hurt you. They don't mean to cry on your parade, but like they don't know any better. We need to find people that will cheer us on and guide us from a different place.
That's right.
So tell us your third moment.
Oh my gosh. The third moment happened somewhat recently. It was maybe 3 years ago. I met my soulmate and the love of my life.
I
And
was hoping this is the story.
he and I both had emerged from divorces and had gone through our own transformation. And we were both feeling this tremendous sense of wholeness within ourselves, you know, that feeling of, okay, universe, whatever is to come, but I feel secure and confident and safe within myself and my life. He and I were both members of the Entrepreneurs Organization, and we met at a regional conference. So, for my girlfriends out there who are listening, you know, you can meet the love of your life at a business conference. Yes, that can happen. But the part that's transformational or incredible about this was, you know, John and I met through a conversation I was having with another woman around spirituality and business. And it's a core belief of mine that if you want to get to know God, you become an entrepreneur. Like it is like you want to know who you are and what you're made of. Like you go start a company and you will really figure it out. And I was talking to this young woman about sort of the road ahead. And, you know, your first business is often not your last, and sort of what all this looks like. John jumped into the conversation and we held steady with what we were talking about. He showed up with the tremendous recognition of what we were talking about and the embodiment of that. For the first time, I was like, wow, this human, I didn't know he and I were to marry, but I was like, this human is going to be someone who's important to me because we understand life in the same way. and have a similar philosophy. That business conference turned into a fantastic elopement 10 weeks later in Venice, Italy. And so the rest is history, Coco. I'm now a stepmom to 3 beautiful boys, and John and I are building business together, and we are just the most tremendous partners in life together and everything. But really, finding someone who was on the level and I was on his level. It's like we were 2
Totally.
whole people coming together. It's really tremendous.
Oh, it's such a gift. When I didn't get married, but I almost did before Frank. And we got 3 weeks to the altar and called it off. He got cold feet and I was brokenhearted and later very grateful it worked out the way it did. My number one thing on my list when I came out of that was I need to be with someone who is growing spiritually as as much as I am, right? Somebody who's going to see that how their life is a reflection of what's going on inside. I'm willing to take responsibility for whatever's going on inside me and grow. And I need somebody to partner with me that way. It sounds like you and John have that.
Yeah, I think there's something really powerful about being with someone when you know you have each other's back. That means the feedback I give you is because I love you. I'm not incentivized, right, to do anything that someone who has bad intentions might do. And so I think that you have to trust someone to know that. You have to trust someone to tell you their honesty. John and I trust each other. And there's something so beautiful about that because in our society right now, mistrust, distrust, like all of that is abound. And so to have that in your most intimate relationship, I think is mission critical.
Yeah. And many women out there don't have that. We have to forge on without it. But when we have it and when we can discover it or find it in the relationships we have, it really is huge. First of all, before we pivot onwards, I want to just acknowledge your 3 stories. So, like your story of 12 years old and doing this thing. And first, I was thinking the word audacity to ask for what you want and have this big vision, but then to really see that it was actually taking responsibility for a very big purpose to impact others. I'm going to jump ship from something safe at Macy's to something new and different at Barney's. Clarity. Like that's a superpower, which is adjacent to integrity. This next piece about wholeness, being in partnership, this movement you're creating around women and money. I want to spend a second longer and talk about this relationship with you and your husband because you're partners and you're creating this movement for women to claim their agency and truth with wealth and power. How does that work with a man? And tell us about that piece of it.
What's really incredible is when John noticed that the podcast was taking off, we sat down just a few months into that and realized, and he really brought to my attention that there was this, and he brought to my attention that there was this entire ecosystem of impact. We sat down and really started to think about what that looked like. John has his own stories to share, but I will
Of course.
paraphrase his story, which is John grew up in a home that was somewhat abusive and dysfunctional. And for him to witness his mother not feel capital agency to create the life that she wanted, ended up putting him in emotionally and physically dangerous situations such that he left home in high school. And so you'll have to sideline John and get the rest of the details on this. But the thing that ropes John into this work is that he is a direct result of capital inagency, right? A lack of being able to move forward or feel confident to do things to protect your family, your community, create the life you want. And so both John and I together have really, our focus is women because we believe that through women you impact families, communities, men, and the world. The focus of women is simply that the narratives around women, we've typically been infantilized. We haven't really been given the opportunities to see possibilities, to hold confidence within ourselves. John and I believe really firmly together that that's the entry point. He is also, as you've experienced, often the only man in the room.
1,000%. And he does it so graciously, so beautifully. So he's in his masculine,
Yes.
and yet he loves the feminine. You can just tell.
He does. And, not too long ago, when he and I were chatting, I said, sweetheart, how incredible it is for you to have this experience that so many women have often had on the other side. What a tremendous amount of empathy
Yeah.
that gives you to know that so many women who you're having dinners with have gotten to where they are because they've been the only woman in the room at times. That's a choice he makes that serves to be a beacon of light for other men who are trying to navigate what it means to be a man in this world when there are so many movements and activations happening to advance women. What does it mean to be a man? And so I think John enables other men to see a different way things can be. By doing so, he further advances and evangelizes women in that process. And so it's a beautiful and unique partnership through and through. And I think truly is what makes our work stand out from anyone else who's in the space.
Yeah, I would agree with that. You're creating these beautiful, remarkable spaces. So tell us, for our listeners, explain what Wealth Catalyst is and
Mm.
what you are like. What I love about our conversation before is that I can tell you've used so much integrity in how you've rolled it out, and how it's taken a shape and a form. But tell us what it is and what you're creating and what you hope to bring to women and men in the world as you do this.
Thank you, Coco. Wealth Catalyst really stands for capital agency and possibilities.
Yeah.
And I think possibilities is so important because as we look at where we are as society, we are often limited to not see what else we can do. What are the options in the world? What can we do with our time, with our money, with our life force energy? We are trying to activate women to see and feel capital agency so that they can invest in the people, businesses, ideas that they believe in so they can protect their families, their communities. And at the end of the day, Coco, what capital agency looks like will be different for every single woman. And so, what we don't believe in is like, here's the path, take the path. It's been done for you. We stand for each woman coming home to herself, figuring out what is important to her, and taking the next steps to live out those dreams and create the change she wants to see. Our values are different. They should be. We have different lives. We do different things. So, what those values and outcomes look like should be different. Our goal is to inspire each woman to make that next step, to see that vision in the world and close the confidence gap.
Well, and so for our listeners, what I've observed in the way you've built this movement is you have a really, really wonderful podcast calling Getting Rich Together that is incredibly popular. People love it. And you've got downloads galore, and it's a super show. Then you began doing the wealth summits, right? And I mean, it feels like it's all happened very fast. I got to go to the wealth summit here in New York last year, and I loved it. And I know you're going to do another one. And
Yes.
now you're starting to roll out wealth programs, and there's a program for couples you're doing, and you're doing all of these activation salons. So, talk to us about what you're creating, and what where how people can tap in to what you're doing.
Yeah, thank you. The ecosystem, as you mentioned, has grown organically. And
Yeah.
it is important that it continues to do so.
Yeah.
This is also to the chagrin of people who've been like, you should do this, you should do that. And we're like, we're gonna do things as it comes up in right timing. And
Yeah.
so next year for 2026, we have two summits. So we have May 14th, our New York City summit. MasterCard has said yes to supporting us again. Grateful for their partnership. October 16th in San Francisco. So we give ourselves a few months in between the summit, something we didn't do in 2025. And then are on a mission to spread the word of capital agency and possibility across the country. We are calling this our Freedom Tour. And this Freedom Tour, I get more goosebumps as we talk about this. But the Freedom Tour is hitting up all the other markets that are often overlooked, unseen, where there are women eager and excited to say, we deserve and want something different and something better. We want to have these conversations. Now, what sets our convenings really different from anyone else's is that we don't do keynotes. We don't put anyone as being better than anyone else. These are no experts on stage saying, Coco, here are the 10 things you should do to get rich. And, what we do is we platform women who are living their experiences and have vulnerability and authenticity to share them on stages in conversations in a collaborative manner. We do first person experience sharing. This is what I did. This is why I'm doing it. This is how I'm thinking about it. Ultimately, capital is very creative, and most of us are only being marketed tools and ideologies that serve other people. We're not being told, here are the creative ways in which you can do this. Here's how other people are making money. And so this is all about creativity, which means at these events, we spill the tea. I said at the New York City event, this is the event for eavesdropping. We want to hear what other people are doing so we can see possibilities and get ideas. And that is the energy that's at the summits, at the salons. Our couples retreat is really designed for us to bring couples together to think about what wealth visioning looks like as a unit. It's one thing to empower women to catalyze opportunities, but if a woman's in relationship and that partner isn't at the event, then there needs to be cohesion with how we bring families together, with how we bring couples into the next stages of what they want to create with more power as a unit. So the couples retreats are really our first entree into building together in partnership. But these events, Coco, are really here to catalyze women to not just say, these are my money traumas and the things that I did poorly and I feel bad. We actually stand here to say, you've done incredible things in your life. And it's time that you own the incredible things you've done in your life and that you stand in your greatness. And in that greatness, you exhibit humility such that you
Yeah.
can learn other things that you don't know.
Well, and this is actually the thing I love the most about what I experienced at your summit and what I've experienced since then, just reading your newsletter and getting to know you, is that you have gathered together all these fascinating, interesting people. And they all come at it from different places. So at the summit, you could learn about investing in Broadway. You could learning about investing in real estate, learn about investing in KK Hart, who I've fallen in love with, of course, because you introduced me to her. And she is a woman who acquires businesses and grows them. Like there's all these ways that you can channel your purpose, your gifts, and create abundance, prosperity, and goodness in the world. And there's things that you don't hear about every day, right? Janine Furpo, right? Like she's telling her stories and what she's up to. And I just feel like there's so much to learn. And you are this person that presents all these people that can give us new ideas.
Honestly, Coco, it's self-serving, right? I need to learn. I need to learn. This whole thing started with like, I need to learn. And how do I learn? Well, I want to learn from other smart, amazing women. And so what do? Let me find them all and let's all learn from each other. There's something powerful about being in connection and learning and being able to be like, oh, like I learned the other day about seller financing in real estate and how easy it can be to bypass all the rules of real estate and go straight to the seller and be like, hey, I want to buy your house. How do we? I mean, I never would have thought of something like that. I'm constantly learning. I think it's like the best thing ever.
It's so fun, right? It really is. And, in the process, we're creating this space. I'm saying we, because
Yes,
I feel like I'm part of
you're
your
in it.
journey in your community. So I have ownership of it too. So
Yes.
you're helping women build connection to capital access, community. Talk to us about the money confidence gap, how you're helping yourself and others dismantle it.
Oh my gosh. Money confidence is wild. I grew up with a mother who also told me that I was bad with money. And that stuck to me until I was about
Oh,
35 years old, until I
ooh,
sat down and went, wait a second, I'm really good with my money. So, like, talk about dismantling very early on, things. And so,
yeah,
um, that has taken some work. But what's interesting is, 72% of women do not feel confident with their capital. It's a high number. And it's really unfortunate because, as you and I know, and your audience does, and if not, they do now, there is that $30 trillion wealth transfer that's coming down the pipeline. Now, regardless if whether or not you are benefiting from the $30 trillion wealth transfer, what's clear is that women today, and I fall into this camp, women today have a lot more capital because of rules and regulations that were passed in the last 50 years that have
mhm,
allowed us to be able to build wealth, that have allowed us to be able to have capital. And
mhm,
so we have this amazing confluence of events that are happening, which are great wealth transfer that's going to put two-thirds of personal wealth into women's hands, along with women who've now had decades of being able to actually build wealth through a lot of rules and system change. And so because of that, when we think about things like, still 85 cents on the dollar for what we get paid against a man, we have to really ask ourselves, how are we going to close this confidence gap such
yeah,
that we can actually activate the resources? Because what'll happen, Coco, is if we don't feel financially active, and we
yeah,
fought and we keep following this path of, well, keep it in a savings account, just keep it in a high yield savings account, put it in CDs, stay very, very conservative. If we start to accumulate more wealth and it continues to get put in more risk averse categories, and we will actually see money pull out of markets, we will see innovation decline, right? We will see the economy ostensibly shrink and move away from its growth potential and what it is that we know it can be when we are investing in innovation and job creating opportunities.
mhm,
Confidence isn't just something that we need to do so we can have this feeling of control in our lives and this feeling of agency, but it's also something that is economically important to how we are going to move forward in the world. We cannot avoid this issue of confidence because we have an economy on the line that we have to be able to support, and we have jobs
totally.
that we need to be able to create.
And I love the way you put that because it really does put so much responsibility on us all to step up and learn. It is a journey, right? You don't get confidence the first time you do something. You have to try things. You have to, you know, and that's what I sense is that in your summits, in your salons, in your show, you're giving people all these different places that they can sample and try. And in my own journey over the last few years of having more capital to play with, I've sampled a few things and it's uncomfortable. It's like, am I doing the right thing? But I do it. And then I have a feeling afterwards that allows me to take the next step. It's helping me become more clear about what my values are, where I want to put my money, how I want to use it. But you can't do that just thinking about it.
That's right. And it takes closing confidences, and you nailed it, Coco. It's the muscle you build, and it's combined with returning home to yourself. We have this program called Confident and in Control, building wealth on your terms. And it's not a framework that's around, and here's how you invest your money. It's a framework around how you own your lifeline, right? How do you own the great money choices you've made, the things you wish you did differently? How do you start to understand your values and your risk at this moment? How do you start to even think about all the categories of all the things that you can learn about? And then lastly, how do you find and connect with wealth expanders? And so we really believe in wealth expanders, which are Coco, you are a wealth expander for women and men, but you are a wealth expander for women. Here's how you build a business. Here's how you
Mhm.
exit a business. Here's how you build a business that's actually based on a core issue and something close to home for you, right?
Mhm.
Something that really pulls at you. Here's how you navigate M&A. Here's how you
Mhm.
navigate life post being a founder. And so that is a set of expander principles that can really help inform other women. Meanwhile, you have expanders in your life. Here's how you buy a cash flowing business. Here's how you think about investing in Broadway. The program, right, this confident and in control is around closing gaps, but also getting you closer to the women who are doing the things that you can see what's possible and therefore go, oh, maybe I can do this.
Yeah.
Maybe this isn't so hard. And maybe I can now look at someone and go, wow, I have ideas on what it's going to look like, what it's going to feel like. And it's
Mhm.
not based on some fluffy thing that's just there to give your money to an expert and they're going to give you the roadmap. The roadmap is unique and it's your own life to create. And these wealth expanders help you see the potentiality of all the directions.
Wealth expander. I mean, that's like a mantra we can all take home and look for, right? What would be a wealth expander in my life today? When you imagine the future you're catalyzing, 10 years from now, wealth transfers happened. What does the world look like when women fully own their financial power? And what must we do today individually to build it?
It's a great question. The future is one where women actually feel on an interpersonal level, there's a great sense of peace. I think today we have really overused this term of abundance, right? Everyone wants to be abundant, but I actually think that in a world where women feel confident in agency and they are exercising their lives, time and energy to their values, I think we're going to see maybe less on social media. I think we're going to see women who are actually not buying into hypey products. I think we're going to see a return to craftsmanship. We're going to see a return to holistic healthcare and bridging things like Eastern and Western medicine. I think we're going to see lives that are not just being prolonged because we're on an exacerbated healthcare system, but lives that are healthy, right? Lives that are really fulfilled. And I think with fulfillment and satisfaction comes less of a dependency on distractions and things that keep us weak. And so I think more empowered women who are capitalizing on their intelligence to build and have agency and create and do and be are going to contribute to a world that is less hypey, that is less vapid, that has less war, and that is far more peaceful. And that is my vision because we live in a world that's predicated on fear, that's predicated on scarcity, that makes us believe we're not enough, and that is constantly telling us that there's something better around the corner. But if we can return home to ourselves, then we actually get the opportunity to dictate our own future.
Okay, so everybody listening, you want more of this. This is what we all want. It's a very grounding feeling, Jama,
Yeah.
to be in your presence and to see what you're creating and be a part of it. It really is grounding. Part of why I have this show, the Wisdom of Women show, is so we hear with the sound of a wise woman what that sounds like, what she says, how she lives. And that's exactly what you are doing for us all. So I'd like to transition to our fast fire round, 5 questions in 5 words or less. Are you ready?
Let's do it.
Okay. Take your drink of water, right? What's the first word that comes to mind when you hear the word wealth?
Power.
What's the smartest money you've ever made?
Investing in Slack pre-IPO.
Ah, what's the most underrated form of power?
How you spend your time.
Ah. What's the most generous act of mentorship you've received?
Oh man, Coco, this is a tough one. I think this is for a whole other podcast around mentorship. This is not going to be the answer that I think people would want, but this is what comes up for me. I did a 11-day Vipassana silent meditation retreat, and the best form of mentorship was meditating for like 8 hours a day.
And that was with Joe Dispenza, yes?
No, the Vipassana, the silent
Oh,
meditation was
okay.
in India, in the northern part of India, in a place called Dharamshala, which is where the Dalai Lama lives.
Oh,
And it was the greatest form of mentorship because it taught me that I am not this body.
oh, wow. Okay, so I might have to go and do that. Amazing. So finish this sentence. The future of women and wealth is.
Sexy, fun, and delicious.
I am on the ride with you, darling. So, how can our listeners and viewers learn more about you and your company?
Listening to the podcast, Getting Rich Together, is the best way to surround yourself with all sorts of wealth expanders. So listen to the show, you'll feel good. Hear Coco's episode, and you'll get a chance to just immerse yourself in the incredibleness. The show is designed for you to realize you're not ahead, you're not behind, you are tracking to your life. And the show reinforces your own track. The other way is obviously come hang out. Like, we're going to be on tour, we're making all this fun stuff. Come hang out with me, and you can find out how to hang out with me at wealthcatalyst.com. But those are the ways. And I want to meet everybody and hug everybody and invite them home to themselves and invite them to their own greatness and invite them to learn with me so we can get rich together.
Ah, I love it. Mark your calendars. The summit in New York City is on May 14th. The summit in San Francisco is on October 16th. We'll be both places. And then the Freedom Tour salons are all over the United States. I want to say it's like 26 cities, something like that. And so check that out at wealthcatalyst.com. And you've got your retreat and you've just put out there this wealth course. Be sure to find out about that because confident in control and financial agency, we all need it. And Syama is the real deal. Not only are you going to learn about really specific strategic and tactical things, but you're going to learn about yourself. You're going to own your own path to wealth and inner okayness. Let's do it together. You'll have so much fun. So, Syama, thank you from the bottom of my heart for being with me today on the Wisdom of Women show. Thank you for illuminating the path to prosperity and opportunity. I value you, your friendship, and your path. I am so excited that you're one of my wealth expanders in this world.
Coco, you are a rock star, and I'm grateful to be in your orbit. Thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you. And so, for all you world changing listeners out there, be sure to follow, like, and share the Wisdom of Women show wherever you happen to listen or view. And to infuse more wisdom into your business, be sure to take the Growth Readiness quiz at aforceforgood.biz/quiz and uncover where your insight is needed most in your business. The world is made better through women-led business. Let's all go make the world a better place. Cheers.